Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to Relaxed and Successful, how to take your transformational entrepreneurship to the next level. My name is Dinan. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm here with Lisa Schrader, my good friend,
Hello.
executive coach and leadership mentor, teacher, woman of many talents. We're going to be having a great time these next 2 hours. We always have a good time teaching and working together, and we know that you're going to as well. So we invite you to settle in. It'd be good to have a pen and pencil. So there might be some things we're going to do as practices in the course of our 2 hours together that could be valuable for you to jot some notes down. But we just, first of all, want to say how happy we are that you've chosen to join us and that you've heard a call. Maybe it's a subtle call, like what intrigue, what's this all about? And what we've noticed, and I'll let you speak about this too, is that there's really a call to do entrepreneurship in a new way. Mm-hmm. And often even the term entrepreneur is something people have a hard time with, but they're just like, I have a message, I have a vision, I'm a healer, I'm a transformational agent, I'm a teacher. And there's all these amazing things that we are each called to bring into the world. And at the deep level, often it requires having sufficient mastery of business. But there's an allergy to doing business in an old paradigm way and to building a business in a way that's like highly stressful or super competitive or kind of undermines your basic well-being. So we want to actually create those things that serve the world in a way that is in alignment with our spiritual truth, with our consciousness. And so that's why we called it relaxed and successful. And so, full disclosure, I think she tends to be a little more relaxed. And that's why she's underneath the relaxed on the screen. And I often tend to focus my consciousness more on the successful side. But the truth is, there's a yin and yang and a balance between these two that actually creates something that is both brings to fruition beautiful things in the world, but does so in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that maybe the key question here is around what is actually sustainable for you. And, this old model of exhausting ourselves in pursuit and being stressed out and not having enough time for the things that matter to us, whether that's our family or how we're volunteering in our communities, our own self-care, for us to really make a difference. And I know you want that, or you wouldn't be connected to Stephen and I, however you found yourself here right now. So in order to really have the impact that we want to have right now, it has to be in a way that is sustainable for us and sustainable on every level.
And beyond sustainable, really joyful.
Joyful.
So sustainable is sort of a baseline, and then joyful and pleasurable is part of what you bring in.
Well, and I would say for me, sustainability it has to have pleasure. Otherwise, I can't do it. You know? So for me, maybe I have a slightly different definition of that. But, and it changes, right? We're going to talk about this today. We have a lot of really exciting content for you. And it changes depending on your life cycle and where you're at in your business, right? Sometimes we can be more relaxed, and more letting go of outcomes. And other times we've really got pedal to the metal and we really have to, be more focused with our energy.
And you can be focused and relaxed at the same time. In fact, I think part of the real fun of entrepreneurship is being super productive, but super relaxed as well, and be able to kind of flow with your natural rhythms in and out. So rather than kind of a maniacal, focus-driven kind of energy, it's more like it's fun. It's like making things happen, making it cool. It's like sometimes writing something really quickly, just like download is awesome and fun. Yeah. But it's relaxed as well because it's not creating stress or anxiety or problems within your system or your life. It's really about a joyful, natural expression of your soul gift.
Right. And I would also say we each get to define what does relaxed mean to you. I mean, Stephen and I laugh about this. The kind of relaxation that I have in my life, is
she's often goes to the river on Mondays.
Right?
I'm usually in the office.
Right, exactly. But we all get to define that for ourselves. What does relaxed mean to you? I really want you to hold this as an inquiry in the next couple of hours that we have. We're so grateful to be with you, coming live right now.
And successful as well.
What successful means to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all get to define that for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think there's a fallacy in our culture where we measure success by money, right?
Exactly.
And that does create a disalignment or a lack of alignment between our true essence, because there are people who are super successful at expressing what they're here to express that have very small businesses, or maybe not even a business, maybe it's a nonprofit, but it is so in integrity and alignment, and it really feeds their lifestyle, and it has the resources that it needs. But part of what the flip side is that a lot of times people struggle with is they think, oh, having lots of money flowing through an entity is less spiritual or less evolved. And I think there's some genuine social critiques around that. We want to address that later. But sometimes successful also means it's right scaling your vision or the entity that you're creating to what its purpose is. So if you need to touch hundreds of thousands of people with your message and work, you often need a good-sized team to do that. And so part of having that and people being able to pay for their kids' schooling and go pay for retirement is to have like an infrastructure and a reliableness to it, which means money flowing through. And so getting masterful at embracing the flow of money at whatever scale is appropriate for your soul's mission here, I think is part of what success is. And there's oftentimes programming on both sides that we need to let go of. So cool. Well, should we jump into the content? So we've got a lot that we're gonna cover. We had like 10 different bullet points that we said we're going to cover. So we're going to make sure to cover some key teachings and insights in each of those areas. We're also going to have some practices.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some Q&A time. What you can do is if you have questions as we're going along, just type them right below this video, and we'll get to those. We'll get to as many as we can in the Q&A time. And also just enjoy. So we want this to be a fun time for you, where you're opening to new possibilities, where you're letting go of old ideas about yourself or what your entrepreneurship can look like, and particularly like really opening to the possibility that you can fulfill what you're here to fulfill and do it in a relaxed, joyful, spiritually aligned way. And that's really why we're here.
Yeah. And then I just want to also add, Stephen and I, we have more to give you. So we are very committed to giving you a lot of value today. We've had so much fun creating this relaxed and successful event for you. And then also, hopefully you've been enjoying the mini course that we provided as well, because that came with your registration. And then we're also going to tell you how to work more with us. We've got a mentorship program that we're also very excited to share with you. So we'll share more about that at the end.
We're going to have an opportunity for 10 people to go much, much deeper into a full upscale transformation.
Only 10.
We'll talk about that towards the end. So let's go to some of the key teaching points. So we were going to focus this first half of our time together a little bit more on the success side of the equation, although these things interpenetrate. So it's not just separate, distinct categories, but really about some principles of how can you align with success defined as an expression of your soul mission that leads to an abundant, prosperous business that is moving forward. Now, we're going to speak at a couple of different levels today. So there are people in the audience who are relative newbies that are starting out, maybe haven't even crystallized a vision of what you're creating. There have other people who've been holding something for a long time but haven't quite gotten it off the ground. And there's other people who have got really successful 6-figure, even 7-figure entities that they are guiding and developing. And some of the same principles apply at each level. I've personally mentored and worked with people who are 7-figure entrepreneurs and just starting out. And I really see that even though some of the strategies are different at different stages, some of the deeper principles actually apply regardless of what stage you're at.
That's absolutely true with my coaching clients as well, right? So wherever level you're at, we really want to welcome you and just listen for what is of service to you. You know, how does this resonate for you? In your own business, whatever scale you're at in your own business right now.
Great. So the first teaching point we want to explore is really about why getting very specific guidance from your soul and making a very detailed future vision is so important. And this comes back to the notion that consciousness is causal. What happens in the world first is sourced in our consciousness. And so we have to be able to open to a possibility before we can create it. And not just open to it as in passively receive it, but to focalize it, to kind of like, it's like you're dialing in the monitor on your computer so you're getting the resolution you want. It's not all fuzzy and vague, because the more fuzzy and vague something is, oftentimes the more doubt enters into the system, the more questions, the more, and oftentimes that prevents this sort of movement forward. So one of your most important functions to be a successful transformational entrepreneur is to hone your visionary instinct and to do practices. We'll do one a little bit later where you actually spend time in dialogue with your soul. And I think that it's important to dialogue too. It's not just like you take orders. You're really saying, it's like, okay, I, as my separate individual ego self, have a say. I don't have to do everything that's the divine, my destiny path. You're just like, okay, I'm stuck. It's like, no, there's a dialogue. It's back and forth. And sometimes those messages come through in dreams. Sometimes those come through from meditation. Sometimes those come through in some sort of ceremonial ritual context. Or, the big download for me, just sort of speaking back, is like I sat, it was probably my fifth 10-day Vipassana retreat. And in the 10-day Vipassana retreat, there's noble silence. You're not engaging with anybody else. And about 3 days into it, my crown chakra opened up. And for 3 days, just this vision poured in of what has eventually become the Shift Network. And we're really still at the early stages of manifesting this. And so what I did is I really let myself become receptive and to see each piece. And it's like, what about the affiliate program? Or how can we create local centers? And who needs to be involved? And I had some background for it. I was working for the Esalen Institute, and I was realizing, we need to be able to democratize access to transformational teachings and workshops at a distance. It was in a fairly early phase of the internet. This was back in 2000. And so I really opened to crystallizing that vision. And when I got home from the meditation retreat, first of all, I was overwhelmed by the vastness of it because it was so big and I didn't have any background in business. And I was like, who am I to create this? But I trusted that the vision that came in was achievable and that I got it for a reason. And so it didn't mean that I had all the skills necessary to birth it. In fact, it took 10 years of a couple of different tries to get it off the ground before we're able to get off the ground. And then there's been wobbles at different times. And it's taken a lot to get to where we have, where we've gotten to be like an 8-figure company, 75 team members, 2.1 million people participating in something. So it's taken a long time to get here. But what the first element was to really crystallize that vision in the form of a business plan. And you can almost think of it less as like business plan often has a sort of, it's all about the money aspect. But actually, in many ways, it's helping for you to focus and crystallize your vision and to get that dialed in, spend time writing, to get it nuanced, to think about what is this, and then to let it land in your consciousness so that you're holding it. And because part of what you do is as a visionary entrepreneur or leader is you're crystallizing that possibility, and you have to do that better and deeper than anybody else around you. You have to see it first in order to help other people see it. And so that could be clients, it could be customers, it could be team members. And so this crystallization of a vision in dialogue with your soul. It's not like it's done and cooked. It's like it's a constant process. It's rare for a week to go by that I'm not trying to do something to like deepen, expand, write about, reflect on some aspect of the vision. It could be a particular summit or a course or program. It could be a new business line. So there's this constant like shaping, almost like molding like clay, this vision of what you're creating. And that's your first creative act. And so if you see that as not like a one and done, but something that you're doing all the time, and that it's actually part of the discipline of being a transformational entrepreneur, then it actually becomes more fun too. It's like so you're crystallizing it for yourself, and then you're speaking it to others. So that's translating it from the vision stage into the spoken word phase. That's what then starts to crystallize people around it, because then you're taking it to the next level of real. And so you're building downwards from the kind of, if you will, from the crown downwards energetically into manifest reality by first honing and focusing and crystallizing this vision. And so, well, we're going to take you into a little exercise later into how you can do this more with just your with your own vision, and you obviously you'll have to take more time on your own to do it. But so, and then the other piece that we're going to lead into what you're going to share here is it's really important that I found is that to not only crystallize the vision of what you're creating in the outer world. So that's more of your business that you're growing and your entity, the thing you're serving as part of your service to the world. But it's really important to then also put attention on your personal lifestyle vision as part of that, because otherwise you can create this schism. Because a lot of times our programming says, oh, if I do X, I'm going to have to work too hard. I'm going to be overwhelmed. I don't have what it takes. There's a lot of self-criticism. There's doubt. There's limitations from our family that come in. And so you want to talk about the personal lifestyle vision?
And I want to pause for a second.
Okay.
And I want to really take a moment to just share with you, because I have the great privilege of being friends and colleagues with Stephen and his beautiful wife, Deva, now for almost 17 years. I got to see early drafts of that vision. Early on, you're like, hey, I've got this idea for this, transformational company, way before the pieces were in place. And so I just want to say, I feel like this individual is one of the best teachers I know of for taking that vision, and a vision that's linked with your soul work or your destiny, and actually translating it into a highly successful transformational business. So I want to pause and just acknowledge that, 'cause I think it's really, really important.
Thank you.
And I also really liked what you said about, business plan. I am a gal who hears the word business plan and I immediately think, boring. Right? Like,
how about a vision plan? Vision plan?
The vision plan, or for me, what also works. So I'm sharing that with you because I want you to translate, right? If you're somebody who feels like, business plan, that just sounds beyond me. Think of it also as a way to take the vision and almost like the architecture of it. Think of it maybe more in even a building metaphor, where you're really looking at what is the foundation. Like, what is going to be the foundation of this piece that I want to build? And then, of course, you can, get the information added onto about like, how are we going to build these walls, and what's the structural load bearing, that kind of thing. Like, think of it more as something you're architecting in your life. And so I would also say super important to architect into that, if you're the entrepreneur, what kind of lifestyle it is that you're wanting. Right? So to really pay attention to things like, what is your own rhythm? And, for example, how many hours are you willing to work? Do you have small children? Do you have aging parents? Like, where are you at in your own life cycle in terms of what you need for your own self-care, or how you want to be contributing to your community? How is your business going to support you with that? And start really building that into the architecture of your business as well. Make sure that's part of your vision. Even things like, how do you want to feel in your business? What are the things that are most important to you? Because that all needs to be part of it too, in order for it to feel exciting for you and feel aligned, integrous, and authentic for you. That's so important.
Yeah, and it's not just like it's not just a nice to have. It's actually essential to have, because what often comes up is people get blocked, and part of that block is feeling like, oh, if I do X, then I'm going to lose something. I'm going to have to sacrifice it to time with my kids. So or something like that. So build in whatever you need to really thrive on a personal level. And there are plenty of people I've coached and worked with that think 20-hour work weeks, that's great. And to honor that. And in fact, there's one woman that we worked with named Bevan, who really recognized herself as a empath and somebody who was here to help to galvanize and motivate and heal empaths and get them focused on their highest path. And she realized that because of her empathy, she was always taking in so much input from around her that she needed more time to decompress, more time in nature.
Yeah.
And so working 20-hour work week was what kind of helped her like really grow her business. And so it can be a little counterintuitive at first because most of us raised in this kind of Protestant work ethic kind of way that you're like, you have to work harder in order to succeed, but actually you need to work the right amount where you can thrive.
Right. That is really sustainable to who you are. And pleasurable. Like, for example, I'm a lot like your client as well. Like, so for me, one of my definitions of success is that I have space in my life, that I have those days where I can, be in my creative, more feminine flow. And then I have days where I'm very focused, and I'm answering 100 emails a day and I'm managing my team and I'm really focused that way. So success for me looks like, this give and take of that, in my day, in my week, in my month, in terms of my own rhythm. And that is just as important to me, if not more important to me. In fact, I've made a lot of decisions in my career to prioritize space in my world over money, for example. Now, you can have both, right? That's like one of the rifts that I'm healing ongoingly, is that, you don't have to choose between those two things. But again, like, what does it mean for me? That makes me feel wealthy, right? Feeling wealthy of time. To me makes having time is honestly, I've made multiple choices in my career because I value that more than the bottom line dollars. Mm-hmm.
And that's really comes because also especially if you have a transformational offering or teaching or something you're moving forward, it's the embodiment of that. Right. You are your message as well. And so you have to give your medicine to yourself first. And in your case, it's like, how could you build a business around pleasure and awakening Shakti if you're not living in a pleasurable way?
Exactly.
So seeing that as part of the vision. So not creating a schism or separation between, here's what I'm doing for my business and here's what I'm doing for my personal life, and I try to squeeze that in on the side.
Exactly.
But it's one integrated whole.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is tricky. This is, that's why we're bringing you this. And, we're not experts at it. We're pretty good at it. I'd say at this point, but we've also been, doing it for 20 something years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, be patient with yourself as you're dialing this in, and know that you can have it. You can absolutely have it. And it's so exciting to get to that place where, your definition of success, your definition of wealth is connected to what also feels sustainable, relaxed, and pleasurable for you.
Yeah. As an example, like 2 years ago, my wife and I brought in a new daughter, and I said, hey, I really want to take paternity time. It's part of our company policy, paternity and maternity time. So we took 3 months off, and David didn't think I was going to be able to do it. She said, you can't unplug for 3 months. And I was like, no, I absolutely will. And then I took every Friday off for the first year. It was Daddy-Daughter Day. And so I was so grateful that we had that time together, and it really helped and actually Shift continue to thrive and even go to the next level in that process. So it's really important that you validate that. So this connects back to a kind of our third teaching point, which is about having to be both spirit-led, which is sort of vision down, top down, which is more what I just talked about. And one thing I didn't mention is it can be good to have different layers to that, like an ultimate vision, like what are you really here to create in this lifetime? And sometimes if you take the timeline off of that, like 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and just allow it to like really tune in, and we'll do a little practice around that to say, what is it the vision that you're in service to? What's the full fruition, and your deathbed, looking back, like you really brought in what you are here to bring in. And to let that be bigger sometimes or smaller, but to let it right size to what you're really here to do. And sometimes when you take it off the timelines, then you don't feel like, I don't know how to get there. Like in my case with Shift Network, it's like a vast global network, and it's like at the time I'm like one guy alone at a desk, and it seems a little daunting. Mm-hmm. And but I didn't let myself distrust that vision that I received. I really stuck true to it, was loyal to it, and that's part of building this muscle of being a visionary entrepreneur. Is like you're cultivating that vision, you're loyal to it, you're steady and moving it forward one step at a time. So this connects to this whole balancing of spirit-led and financial strategies up. And so once you crystallize more of the vision of where you're going and keep articulating or refining it, then you also want to get really savvy about what are the best strategies for getting from point A to point B with the least amount of effort. And so often that requires doing things that get good revenue flows early. So as an example, you want to say what are the highest value things that I can offer in the shortest period of time with the least amount of investment, because those, when you set those up in the right way, that's like the first big domino, and then it makes the next domino a lot easier because you already have some success and resources to build upon. There's often too many people will focus just on the vision part, and they won't get savvy enough about the bottom-up strategies that they're talking about their vision all the time, but they're not actually making an offer, launching something, they're waiting too long, and then they don't have the resources to kind of get traction. And so that's where there's a whole process of really saying, it's like, what out of your business offers the most value that you can offer for either the most people or the right intimate people, that then it allows you to then get to the next level, and then you're funding the team around you that can then do the things that don't bring you joy. So that's part of the relaxed part, is that you have to start seeing the outsourcing of different functions as central. There's oftentimes in that early entrepreneurship phase where you're sort of doing it all yourself because you don't have the money, and then you get stuck in that. And then that actually prevents you from going to the next level because you're exhausting your energy and you're not opening to the right people who can help things scale up to the next level. So that's really key. I think it's really key. Another thing I want to add, because I see this in myself and in my clients that I'm coaching as well, is this tendency to feel like I have to have the perfect website, or I have to have my whole social media strategy figured out, or I have to have a fully stocked blog before I can go out and start making offers. And I think that there can be a tendency to, go towards the things that we feel comfortable with or we find exciting. Like I'm one of those people who loves to, create a big, beautiful sales page and get the copy just right and the images just right. And it's so exciting. You're very good at that. I love that creative part of the process. What I need support on, what my coaches and my mentors help me on is like, okay, it's good enough now. Like, go ahead and launch it. Yeah, get it out there. And for a lot of people, that's like, oh, but that's so scary. I think I'd rather go, let's create another page, or let's go create, let's keep fine tuning it. So I think what Stephen is saying is a very important piece. And then, ultimately, when you have a little bit of success, then boom, you can do the next thing. But I would say be wary and just be honest with yourself. Note those places where, you have your strong suits. And that's wonderful. You need those, but also note those places where you might be going into shadowy, like, oh, I'm just afraid to launch it. Right. Avoid it. What if nobody comes? Right. Exactly. Avoid some of the uncomfortable feelings. Exactly. Right. And so there is just leaning into the places of discomfort, perhaps. And a connected part of this that I think it can be really important to look at in terms of bottom-up strategies is creating packages rather than just selling time. And this is a really key part of most people who are a fair number of people who are doing different transformational businesses and offerings, is they get into just selling their time as a coach or a healer of different kinds. And that can be a bit of a hamster wheel. It's hard to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. And so starting to get, like, one way you can start to get more momentum on is to say, oh, instead of just selling an hour at a time, you're saying, okay, I'm going to sell you a package of time. So this is like, it's a 12 session series. We're going to take you from point A to point B and really describe that journey from point A to point B. And when you describe that well, then you can make that offer to people, and you do that at a discount. So you can often make much better revenues and get it more front loaded, which then allows you to start to staff up a little bit. So if you sell, 10 packages of 10 sessions, you've just sold in advance 100 sessions, which allows you then to staff up to support that to the next level. And so that's often a good way to get off the ground. You can do that without even having like a sophisticated sales page, although a sales page does help. So, and the same principle applies later on, is like looking at what are the things that you've already launched. So as you get further along, let's say you have a 6-figure business, 7-figure business, what are the things that you can easily leverage into something that you can sell in advance to go to the next level? It's one woman I was just working with 2 weeks ago. She was just really looking at like, oh, how does she staff up and build a team for herself? Is it like, well, let's do some pre-sales to primed customers from the past of this advanced coaching package that wasn't even going to be launching until September. But I'm like, oh, well, why don't you make specific invitations to your most prime people to do it at a discount, do it now, and then you can make the money right now, which then allows you to hire the support team going forward. So it's sort of a rewiring of your thinking, is like being able to sometimes sell things before you have it all perfect or have it all baked. And
exactly.
So by giving an incentive to do that can really help.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one dear friend and colleague who's a really rock star marketing coach and runs a marketing company. And it's just been amazing. She oftentimes will sell an idea, and then I'll say, well, is that all ready yet? She's like, oh no, we'll figure that out later, and it was like that. It's that kind of an idea of like, oh wow, yeah, you can sell something, and she delivers it impeccably, but she doesn't get it all perfect at the beginning. Right. She sells it. She's a great salesperson, and she says like, here's what we're going to offer. And then she gets the people who are, yes, we want that. And then she has the revenue, and then they just build it. Now, she's got a lot of resources, so she can do that really quickly. But it's very different than like, oh, let me get it all perfect, right? I'll build it and then they will come. It's different model to consider.
Yeah, good. Let's talk a little bit about staying true to your vision in the face of doubt. This is something that it comes up a lot with people, is that, and some of it is not just us, is like we swim in a culture that's a little more risk averse, and sometimes like, oh, people don't want to fail and they haven't succeeded themselves, so then they want to caution you to be more cautious. And so the voices of doubt are all around us, and so we internalize some of that as like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And I think that's one of the things that takes down so many entrepreneurs, is that like the self-doubt voice. So I'd love to hear a little bit.
True. So I think it's really important for us to remember, and most of you here are spiritual beings. I assume with some kind of a practice, you wouldn't be attracted to the Shift Network and to me. So you know this already, but really important to know that egoic mind, its job is to look for what's wrong, to doubt, to always look at the glass half empty. So know that this is just normal. I think one of the first things to do is to normalize that, you're going to wake up maybe in the middle of the night and go, what am I doing? Is this going to work? I'm afraid it's not going to work. Maybe I don't have the resources, blah, 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 like that kind of monkey mind voice. So then the question is like, how do we work with that? And once it arises, what do we do with that? And one of my favorite teachers, a coach that I love, Maria Nemeth, calls this trouble at the border. And I love that. So to know that depending on how big your vision is, you're going to have that trouble at the border. And the border is taking something out of the unmanifest, the idea place, the vision, right? Like Stephen getting that like download of what the Shift Network was going to eventually be. That's exciting, right? It's a very high frequency energy. And then when you start to move that from the unmanifest kind of through the border, and there's always trouble at the border, into material reality, like how am I going to actually do this? Of course the doubt's going to be there. So it's actually a good sign, right? So if we can kind of reframe it like, oh, doubt is here. I must be up to something, right? I must be up to something. And then to really stick with that. And then the other thing I would say is be careful around the interpretation of what the outer side world might call successful and what is actually successful. Like I heard this phrase from my own spirit the other day that said, your perception, keyword, your perception of whether you are successful or not is actually not your business. And I was like, wow, thank you for that. Because what it helped me to do is come back to the vision, right? And my ultimate purpose, which is love. That's really what I am about. And then there's going to be lots of strategies that I use in my Awakening Shakti business to execute on my vision, right? I might try a workshop. I might try a membership program. I might try an online program. I might try a coaching package, right? There's all these different strategies. Now, here's the thing. Hopefully you're going to have strategies that are wildly successful, make you a lot of money, and feel really fulfilling. But the truth is, this if you're an entrepreneur, Steve can speak to this. We try things and they don't necessarily
There are plenty
work,
of failures.
right?
And
You're like, that's
David and I often
right?
joke, we fail our way to success. It's
there
the number of things. It's like, well, that didn't work out.
And it can be very painful, right? And we can get all emotionally attached to that and like, it didn't work. But here's the thing, like one of my favorite stories around this, and I've had multiple issues like this in my own practice over the last 20 years, times like this that had happened. But one of my colleagues tells a story, I just love it, where she had a workshop scheduled. It happened to be in Europe, and and it wasn't filling, right? And she's a very well-known teacher, also around the divine feminine. And it was like, how weird, like this workshop is such a great workshop. How come that's not filling? And then not only was it not filling, but at the last minute, suddenly like 5 of the people it was already a small workshop, there was like 14 people coming. So they were already disappointed about the enrollment numbers. And then at the last minute, it was really bizarre. Like 5 people had, a death in the family or an illness and had to drop out. So she was like, all right, don't know why that's happening, but let me just do this small workshop. Well, interestingly enough, one of the women that came to the workshop was a very famous TV personality, a woman who was quite well known. And she was so relieved that she was in this intimate environment where she wasn't having to deal with, the public, and she could just be herself. And as a result of that, she was so contributed to by my colleague and by the work that happened in that workshop that she ended up partnering with my colleague, and they had a phenomenally successful partnership that catapulted my friend to a whole new level of her business. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. When you have that doubt, or you're like, oh, I created this thing and nobody came, we just never know. You never know who's in the room. Mm-hmm. You never know what that stepping stone is going to be for something else.
Right.
So be careful about like killing your idea or going into that spiral of self-doubt, because we really don't know. Perhaps your perception of success is not your business in this case. You just have to stay focused and do what you're here to do.
That's a great story. And I think it also just brings up an orientation of like really seeing things working to support you. So if you start with the assumption that even things that feel like a failure or a breakdown, it's exactly. Like, why might that actually be a blessing? Why could that be a value add? Sometimes it's maybe you only have so much energy available to hold a certain number of people. Sometimes it might be that there's something else that needs your attention rather than having to support a big program launch. And it's like, so if you start with the question mark, how might whatever apparent failure, what does it have to teach? How does it serve? What is the lesson from this? How is this helping me grow? Then you see that all the breakdowns, failures, everything as curriculum rather than signposts.
I love that, as curriculum.
Rather than signposts that like, oh, maybe you shouldn't be doing this at all. No, you have to trust that you are doing this. You are doing what you're here to do on a soul level, and that whatever happens en route is actually a training curriculum for you and potentially a blessing for you in ways that you don't always expect.
And you might not know that right away, right? So you can, it does take, to do what we do, people, it takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of trust, It takes that kind of focus and that kind of, surrender at the same time that, it's like the banks of the river, that more masculine energy that, Stephen is carrying a little bit more here in what we're offering you today. Like, what are those strategies and structures to hold? And then we've got this feminine flow of the river that is guided, right? And is able to dance in the energy, the Shakti, if you will, the life force energy of where it wants to go. And we don't always know and very oftentimes if we can be surrendered in that, I've done the best I can do. I've executed the strategies. Maybe the outcome didn't happen the way I want to, but I'm trusting that that will guide me somewhere. You just never know. In 3 to 6 months, it happens to me all the time. I'm like, oh, that's why that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's it.
Cool. Well, I'm going to bring some masculine. We're going to move on to the next point because there's so much to share in each of these, and that's part of why we're excited. We're going to have a whole 6-month program to teach together. We'll share a little more about that. Yeah. So next, connecting to another really key ingredient on the success piece is aligning your branding and messaging with your soul mission. A lot of times people you can get too caught up in trying to present yourself as you think other people want you. I should be more serious. I should be more academic. Or anything that feels like a should is often a layer of presentation that's defined by the culture that you think is out there, which may not be your authentic audience to serve. And so a lot of people, with Shift Network, we've launched 500 plus programs, maybe 600 at this point. Every single faculty who comes to us has been working on their presentation in the world for a long time, and usually we can do it better because there's some blindness that can set in about how you're presenting yourself, and it has to do with, first of all, getting really clear who you are and what's the unique blessing that you can offer to people. So it's what is the real transformation that somebody can get by coming to you, and really spending time dialing that in. Where are they when they come in? Where are they getting? Who's the audience that really can best receive what you have to give, and through your business or the products that you offer. And so really getting clear on that journey, the customer or client journey from point A to point B, and then making the language crystal clear, sending it a message out. I'll sometimes say the word bat signal. You want a bat signal. It's like the exact right person is going to show up and respond to that messaging. So you don't have to make it more generic or applicable to everybody. In fact, that's not usually poor marketing.
Yeah. No,
if you make it more
specific,
the more specific, the better. So with your example, it's like you're often teaching very specific women who are reclaiming their sexuality, often at the tail end of a corporate career where they kind of got burned out and they need to revitalize, or the kids are going off to college and they want to get juicy again, and so there's a way in which you're speaking to a specific audience, and each program that we launch at the Shift Network is speaking to a specific audience. And so you can think of branding is about something more like right communication. What's the most direct, authentic, clear communication that says exactly what you can deliver for somebody, exact right audience? And so dialing that in, making it true to who you are and an authentic reflection of who you are in your mission is really important. Because if you're shy about your mission, that's why it's important to get your vision really clear. Because when you share your vision, that helps to kind of create like a lighthouse signaling out there. Hey, this is what I'm up to. Are you called into this? It's like rotating around, sending out that beam, and then the specific messaging that you do with the everything from the title to the subtitle of a program to the communications that you send. You want them to build relationship and rapport and a sense of shared empowerment in a larger mission. And so that's why this branding piece is really important to hone. And it's sort of like the next step down from your vision piece, is that you're getting clear about who is part of that vision that you're creating, and how do you speak to them in a way that calls them out of all sorts of false ideals, and that it's about speaking to their essence and their truth. And people are more motivated by that. A lot of conventional marketing, so sometimes people have a negative reaction around it because it's like it's a little bit manipulative or like false, or it's like trying to it's like gimmicky. And so I think it's better long term to be as authentic as you can, as really, and connect heart to heart, be vulnerable sometimes in how you're communicating. I know you're expert at this. I love reading some of your emails that you send out.
Oh, that was a lot of information, Lise. I agree. I think that's really important. And I also just want to add, because, I've been doing my own business for 2 decades. And before that, I had a career in high-tech marketing. And so these pieces around branding and marketing and positioning are so critical. And I would also offer, if you're struggling with this, it's kind of like trying to do surgery on yourself. So please get support. I mean, do the best you can. But so oftentimes, Stephen's been a valuable resource for me, and I have many other coaches and mentors too. When I speak about what I do, I'm so deep in the soup of that, and it's so important to me that, a lot of times it takes another person to say, I think, is it this? Is that the key piece? And I'm like, well, it's that, but it's all this. And they're like, yeah, but is this the essence of what you're trying to say? Because it's difficult for us when we're so excited about our vision and our mission to sometimes find these specific pieces. And so get support. You can ask, you can get support. We have plenty of support to offer you, but also ask your clients, ask your customers, like, what is it about what I give you or the service I provide or the product that I'm providing that is really important to you? Get their language from your customer's point of view. And don't try to do this by yourself. Just like you wouldn't try to take your own appendix out. Don't try to do that.
and I think that's a really good point about also testimonials can be a great way to get that reflection. So you're like, if somebody, because they're genuinely saying you've helped them go from point A to point B, you've changed them in some way, and that's a reflection of what your real gift is and your blessing. And so doing that at each level of the game, you can do it with focus groups as you're larger, but really getting that feedback about how you're helping people grow, because that's what ultimately people are investing in the transformational industry. Is you're investing in an evolution of yourself, an improvement of your lifestyle, an enhancement somehow of how
growth or abundance, right? Yeah. To be to have increase. And
so and part of integrity is you want people to get that. When they come to you, they know they're going to get that. So you're sending out the signal. Everything's congruent, and when everything's congruent, the energy's all lined up, and then that allows the trust to actually make purchases and sales and build relationships over time.
And just around our piece about relaxed, remember too. I mean, I've struggled with this because even worse because I have a background in marketing of being inside of my own reality of I could figure this out. What's my brand? What's my positioning? It's actually much more difficult to do it that way, right? So this is that, again, getting support and getting the feedback directly from your customers. They will tell you. Other people who know you will say, oh, you're the one who does that. You're like, oh, is that what I do? Okay, great. So stop trying to figure it out by yourself and just open to the universe is flowing this to you. Yeah. And again, if you can receive that and just see what already people are speaking to you about that and cherry pick those words, that will really help you zero in on what your brand and your positioning is.
Another good thing to think about getting to the essence is that as your business grows, it becomes known more and more for one or maybe two things. And so, or Stephen, Stephen, he's the shift guy, right? And so it's you get associated with a term or two. It's oh, you're Shakti. It's sort of there's not people's tend to simplify when they're referring. And so another key part of branding and communication is to really make sure it's simple enough and essential enough that somebody can tell somebody else about you. They know how to describe what you're doing.
Right. The word shift communicates a lot. The word Shakti communicates a lot for the people who know what that word means, right?
But that's where you're speaking to the right target audience.
Right. It's the essence.
Cool. Well, let's take a little bit of time now to do a practice. We're going to shift gears here. So I'm actually going to guide this first one, and Lisa will do one a little later. So I encourage you to actually get out your pen and pencil so you're ready, or pen and paper rather. So I'm going to encourage you to just go inward for about 5 minutes here, and you can do a much longer version of this, and essentially this is just a brief inner journey to communicate with your soul about your biggest destiny path, your vision of what you're here to create. So I'm going to close my eyes as well to encourage everyone to do that. So it's taking a deep breath and letting that fill all the way through to your very little toes. And another deep breath. And you're just going to set the intention that you're going to take this next 5 minutes or so to receive some information. It's valuable to you on your journey of manifestation, your soul mission. even though we don't have a lot of time, just opening to, you're going to get something valuable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a place that for you is a place of nurturance, of power, of depth, a place that feels safe and maybe luxurious or beautiful. Some place where you just feel really like at home with yourself. And just whatever comes up first is fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to set the intention that we're going to go on a little journey there. And we're going to meet a messenger from your soul. So each breath, getting more relaxed. And I'm going to count us from 1 to 10. Just letting yourself take some time away from this body and space-time. 1, a little more relaxed, letting any fuzziness drop away. 2, 3, more relaxed. Letting your attention begin to shift to this special place. 4, 5, 6, more relaxed, untethering from this body. Seeing the scene there, natural environment, might be birds, might be smells. 7, there's a ground feel beneath your feet. There's the air feel on your skin. 8, noticing the panoply of sounds. 9, 10. Let yourself fully land in this special place, this place of refuge, and taking in for a moment your surroundings, enjoying them. And now a messenger is going to arrive. Some form, could be a bird or an animal or a plant or something subtle, than a person. From your soul, a messenger from your soul. Now letting yourself just see this messenger, not questioning form. It's whatever form your soul has sent. Just ask the question, what do you most need to know about the vision that you are here to create in this lifetime? The answer may come in intuitive knowing, or words. It's kind of a felt sense. Just be quiet for a little bit here while you can receive anything that arrives. Okay. And just a little nod or bow of gratitude, anything that acknowledges whatever you just received. We're just going to gradually come back to this space and time. Ten. Letting that scene drop away. 9. 8. 7. The scene is dissolving now. 6. 5. Your awareness coming more to the room you're in, my voice, your body. 4. 3. Coming back now. 2. And 1. And taking a deep breath and wiggling your toes and fingers and coming back here. So this is a super abbreviated version of a much longer practice that has to do with just really getting guidance, being receptive to messengers from your soul. Just as in a dream state, you might get symbolic figures. You're just doing a conscious journey to connect with some symbol of your soul. So I actually got more of like a tropical parrot this time, and I had it was more of a Hawaii location, and I got just a simple message that the Shift Network is really to help everybody. And I think that as we've been in a mode of seeking for investment and focusing on our market, it's like it can be like, oh, it's just for these people, these leading edge people, but it's like that's just a little message that we're here to help serve really humanity, not just a smaller group of people ultimately. So,
beautiful practice.
Did you have anything come through?
Yeah, well, thank you. I got to visit my beloved Yuba River, which was so nice. I was instantly there. And this beautiful, dark brown-skinned goddess emerged from the water and came right up to me and said, "You must stay in your joy. You must stay in your joy." And I was like, wow, okay, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, it's really perfect. So I mean, I can feel it's like there's a tenderness to receiving these things. Sometimes it may not seem like, it immediately translates into a business strategy or something, but it's just like there's a way in which our being keeps needing to expand the aperture of like, what are we opening to? And so it's like you're more and more of a receptacle for joy and just letting that current move through you. And I'm like, how do we keep expanding who we're serving to a wider and wider audience? And so, and that keeps us true to ultimately our soul intentions. And so there's a lot of ways we can do it, and we'll do more in our upcoming mentorship program, but just a little taste here today. And I encourage you to just jot a few notes of whatever came through so that you have it for the future. So beautiful. Well, we want to make this interactive. So this is going to be a little bit of time now for some Q&A. So we'll do about 10 minutes right now. And so we had a few that came in early. So I think what we want to do is take some of those, and then if you want to type any other questions that come on that you feel soon. And we wanted to speak, first of all, Felicia had a great question. Do a little distillate version here. It says, I really struggle with so many visionaries touting the desire to be millionaires as being compatible with wanting universal abundance for all. The planet cannot sustain everyone having multiple houses, constant fuel consuming, air travel for everyone on Earth, and multiple vehicles of transportation for every family member. 8-figure incomes are inherently unsustainable, so we're supporting a system that can only ever work for some, which makes it inherently flawed. So how do visionaries square this on a moral level? I think it's a great question. And honestly, like many years ago, I had like 5 shirts and a couple pair of pants. I was super minimalist, almost monk-like in my existence. And it took my wife, Deva, kind of seeing that, no, actually a certain amount of material prosperity was good to support the enactment of this larger vision. And I think that one of the key points is that you don't have to be overconsumptive to make good use of money that flows through. So in our case, I've had to learn we have to generate more than $1 million a month now to support 75 team members. There's at least 100 people who are depending on paying their rent and getting their food and paying their kids' college and doing it. There's a lot of people who depend on the Shift Network doing well now. And all the people who receive the benefit and then go out and teach their livelihoods, that's probably tens of thousands of people who are being fed so that they can be more effective transformational change agents. And then people who are just starting out on their path. So for the Shift Network, I've had to embrace opening to a much wider aperture of flow through, which doesn't mean I personally take home an 8-figure income. In fact, I feel like what we've done as we go is like that we have needed to grow. We've got a new baby and we got another baby coming. We've got schooling. And so I have definitely scaled up our salary as I've needed to, but I've tried to be judicious about what we spend on. And so, but there's sort of two principles. One is like what's actually true in terms of the planet can sustain. And the truth is we do need to get, greener cars and more solar power and eat lighter on the planet and consume less. And there's also the simultaneous need for more conscious people to allow more money to flow through, because when you have more money flowing through, you get to make decisions about where that money goes. So you can recirculate the money in a more conscious way. So we actually need to redirect the economy to more conscious things. So if you have really conscious people who push away excess money, that actually works against us, because then it essentially pushes the money flow on the planet to the people who are less conscious and doing more destructive things with it. So we want to direct it through more in conscious ways, be aligned with our lifestyle, I think is really important, and to cut down on our impact and do positive things, and also to right size our the flow with the vision that we're here to enact.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that, and I love this question because I think it's it's a very important one. And I also want to say that, not everybody wants to scale a business to, 6 or 7 or 8 figures, right? Like that's totally up to you. Like we're not saying you should do that. We're saying if you are somebody who is wanting to be more relaxed and more successful, and you have a vision, you want to get what it is that you do or what you have to offer out into the world, that there are ways to do that, right? There are very specific strategies. There is the kind of support that you're going to need in order to do that. But it's up to you if that's important to you and that's what you want. And I also want to say that, for me, one of the first things that I wanted to do when I had a little bit more discretionary income, when I was kind of out of just survival mode, was I wanted to give it away. Part of what actually brings me great joy is to be able to be generous with that money, and particularly in places that, I feel are really important to me. For example, where I live, the Nisenan indigenous people that lived here who are, looking to be federally recognized right now. I want to give them money every month. And so I do, because I believe in that. And I believe in lots of different, I support a child through Save the Children that I sponsor. There's ways that I can align with Tree Sisters, for example, our beautiful friend Claire Dubois. I give them an ongoing subscription because that's what I want to do to support having more trees on the planet, the environmental crisis. So there is something that is so empowering about having the resources for you to put towards the things that are important to you. I am probably not going to go out and plant a bunch of trees on my Saturday, but I am very, very happy making a monthly contribution to Tree Sisters for the people who are devoted to doing that. I am so grateful for them, right? And so that's a way for me to do something positive for the environment. That's aligned for me. Yes, it's my dollars, but that's what I get to give rather than the actual planting of the tree, for example.
Yeah. So there's the philanthropic benefit, and there's also just, it takes money to grow a larger entity. So if that's part of your vision and part of what you're here to do, is like to embrace that you're going to have more flow through, and then it does, and you're trying to just do it in the most conscious way possible, with both for yourself and the other people around you, so that there is a shared lifting of of shared success that really is part of that. So I think that the impulse under what you're saying is totally accurate, that we do need to have an economy that works for all.
Exactly.
And that's part of what we can advance and move forward and be philanthropic and also model in our own businesses. But I think that probably something that on your side is to also investigate where might there be some barriers or judgments in you which could be impeding your ability to fully live your so because a lot of people on a spiritual path get distortions around money. I personally had a lot of that programming. It took a while to unravel. And judgment about charging lots or
right.
It's like charging
as
many, and so but it actually is like at a certain point I was like, you know what, in order to grow to the vision I was given, it's like we have to have millions of dollars going through this entity, and that's beautiful ultimately if we can do that in a way that blesses humanity.
Yeah.
So
thanks for the question, Felicia. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That was great. Courtney from Columbus says, thank you both for this resource and opportunity. I'm in the just want to get something off the ground category. So my question is about making the transition from seeker to leader. I'm stuck in the perception I need more training, education, information to claim authority. Is this just a form of procrastination?
That's such a good question, Courtney.
Well, it's hard we don't know exactly where you're at, but people will usually go one way or the other. They're the kind of like the over educators, like, yes, I'm going to keep getting more training, which can be a form of procrastination. And since you asked, is this just a form of procrastination? I suspect there's a little bit of that going on with you. And so I think that my perspective is we want to hold that we have gifts that we're bringing, that we're teachings, we have offerings, and we're also a student at the same time. It's not like, okay, we're just done with one phase or the other. It's like, I'm always learning and growing. Yeah. I'm going to new mentors and learning different things. You are as well. And so, but if you, Courtney, you have value that you can bring to people right now. And if you don't bring that to them, you're doing them a disservice. And it's actually, if you don't charge them, you're doing a disservice. So I would say you have somewhere where you can lead and somewhere that you can offer strong value right now, and there are places where you're still growing. And so to just do them both in parallel, that's the more integrated path. Yeah,
be of service, right? Just be of service. And I think can be such a trap. It's a little bit like what I was speaking about before about, I have to have the perfect website and I have to have it all dialed in. Yeah, having a website and having a way for people to reach you is really important, but go ahead and give your gift. When I first started learning about Tantra and sacred sexuality, and my former husband and I were starting to really see some real changes that were happening for us. It was our friends who said, what are you guys doing? How come things seem to be so much more connected between you? We were smiling more. We were learning about this whole new world around our sexuality that we had never discovered before. And because we were really stuck there, it was a big breakthrough. And it was our friends who said, well, teach us what you're learning. And we were like, well, we're not teachers. And we're like, well, can we just have a gathering and you could just do a little workshop for us? And so our very first Tantra workshop was with 5 couples who were our very best friends. And then boom, they told people, and then boom, blah, blah, blah. And, within a few years, we were on the Oprah Winfrey show talking about Tantra to the whole world, right? I mean, that was a crazy miracle that happened, but you just never know. So go ahead and give your gift, because the more that we do that, right, that you're sending a signal to the universe that I am willing. I might not be great at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to run a workshop, but I'm going to give my gift. If that will help others, let me do that. And that was what can have these, doors opening, and have you really know, like it did for me. It was quite a sign from the universe. This is the path we need you to do, right? Goddess was like, I need you to do this work in the realm. Like, wow, I had no idea, right? When I was getting my, in my marketing career and getting my degree from UCLA, that she was going to tap me and say, we need you to teach about sacred sexuality and Tantra in the world. I'm like, me? Are you kidding? I don't even have that great of a sex life at the time. I didn't. Now I do. But yeah, what a gift to actually, give your gift.
Yeah. And so, and the other thing that you can do is if you kind of need to trick yourself into it a little bit, is that like start by offering something for free, time limited to somebody, and then see what kind of value they get. Like I'm feeling called to make this offer. I want to start this business. I would love to just convene a group of my friends and do a 4-hour workshop. And this is my gift to you. But if you get value from it, maybe offer a testimonial or offer,
or give me some feedback about what worked or didn't work, or what made sense or didn't make sense.
Because if people get value, you have a business.
Totally.
Because you have an audience. And so you have to convince yourself now that that part of you is ready. And I suspect you already know. So Karen from Albuquerque, we'll just do one more because we're a little behind on the time. But so Karen from Albuquerque says, my innate nature is to be shy and introverted. I do not feel comfortable in touting my abilities. What do you suggest for a person like me if I want to branch out as an entrepreneur? Well, a couple things come to me. First of all, one of the great things about the internet is that you don't necessarily have to do things in a big crowd of people. You can offer things from a really intimate space that are really vulnerable and authentically sharing. So internet businesses can be really powerful for introverts because, frankly, a lot of the teachers out there that I know are actually more introverted. I tend to be a bit more introverted myself and need a lot of alone time. So if you think about it, it's like you're showing up for an environment that is a little bit more contained rather than like a big party or a group of people. You're like, oh, it's just you and a video, and sometimes below. And so seeing yourself as somebody who could potentially launch an online business can be really powerful. And the other thing is that the whole thing around touting my abilities is there's a couple of ways around that. I mean, I think it's good to be able to lean into claiming your gifts, and there's some things that you can do over time to do that. The other thing that's often more successful is getting somebody else to tout your abilities. So if you have somebody, it's like you're like, hey, I'm saying Lisa rocks, and she's saying Steven rocks. That actually has more credibility than if you're just saying that about yourself, and it's a little more socially acceptable.
No, let's talk about me now.
So one of the things you can do is find somebody else who you trust and like, and you're kind of like helping to promote and support each other and endorse each other. So in a way, you don't have to just claim certain things for yourself. You're offering to other people, you're offering your gifts, and then they're providing testimonials back, and so that you're letting them do the speaking about rather than kind of doing something that feels inauthentic.
Yeah, great questions.
Great questions. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into the next little teaching segment. If you have other questions, hopefully we have a little bit more time in the next segment. So next we had the integration of masculine and feminine energies. We've touched on it a little bit, but you're really awesome on this one. So
this one's so powerful. It's interesting to me when we just did this visioning that, the goddess comes out of the river and says to me, stay in your joy, which is, it speaks to me because I actually tend to be a pretty yang personality, and which is interesting, right? Because here I'm like in my feminine flow, and I do have like an amazingly sensual, pleasurable life. But as an entrepreneur, I can tend towards workaholism. I can get, very driven, and I can be overly concerned about strategies and what's working and what's not working. And so this like reminder to stay in my joy and in pleasure and in deep receptivity is, you teach what you need to learn. And so it's one of the ways that I really nurture myself that way. And so we're using these words masculine and feminine, which I want to just say can be very confusing to us, I think, particularly in the West, because we really associate those words with gender, with men and women. And so it might be more helpful just to remember we're both made up of both, right? We all had a mother and a father who, regardless of what their relationship was like, created us, right? So we have that.
Or at least genetically. You might have had mother and mother or father.
Right, exactly, right? But genetically, that's how we all got here. And so to remember we have both sides of those inside of us. And a lot of times in my teaching around this, I offer the words yin and yang, which we also know, which kind of takes us out of the idea of gender. Or you can also think, I really like this more from the tantric teachings, the idea of solar and lunar. And so, let's just talk about the more quote unquote masculine more yang, more solar energies that we all have, which are those ones that are frankly more penetrating, right? Those energies that the culture tends to value of, like, stay focused and have your clarity and get things done and be in action.
Drive and ambition.
Make things happen. Drive and ambition, right? And so, of course, we need that in our businesses, right, in our entrepreneurial lives. And that's only half the equation, right? The yin and the yang symbol. And the wholeness comes from these two parts that are together making the wholeness. So to also really embrace in our businesses our more lunar, receptive, these more feminine qualities of, spaciousness, the non-doing, the being, that ability to really get those downloads, to really feel ourselves grounded, like one with the earth, right? And be able to be in the more dark place of the moon, right? And that, like, the fertility of our own darkness versus that, bright light where we're, like, out there with the rays of our solar energy making things happen. And so, yes, these aspects, and particularly these places where we feel more pleasure, and our sensuality, because this is, I think, what makes our business lives sustainable, right? It's kind of like trying to grow a rose with tons of sunshine all the time, but not enough water, right? And so we're always in this dynamic. And again, this is where you get to really be an inquiry, but to remember, particularly in our business, that when we're driving and so much trying to figure things out, or even intending, like, I really want to have, 30 people in my upcoming workshop, and that's what I really want. That's what I really want. We got to also remember that the counterpart to that is to also feel them arriving, right? To receive what it would be like to have that version of success, and to allow yourself to receive the impulses or the messages that might be coming to you. If all we're doing is talking and telling the universe what we want, there's not room for the universe to go, hey, I have an idea for you, right? Because you just won't shut up long enough to listen, right?
Yeah.
Or let me just bring it to you. But if you're so busy, like, well, where is it? It's like, it's right here. I'm trying to give it to you. Well, I'm too busy doing, right? So just some examples to really feel into, to weave in both the yin and the yang in your business.
Yeah, I think that really beautifully said. Some specific things that can be helpful. Build in a Sabbath or a Shabbat every week. I like that. I'm not Jewish, but I love that spiritual practice. Is like a day where you're really not producing anything is so good for your soul, and also like good for your business. To build in cycles of vacation and renewal, put them in first rather than fit them in around other things, and also to have work week limits. If you have a tendency to overwork, as I certainly did in the early stage of launching Shift, what I actually made a commitment to no more than a 45-hour work week publicly to the whole list, and I was accountable to my wife. And so for 4 months, I would run out of time. At 45 hours, I was like, all right, I guess I go for a walk, and I was done for the week. And it was a great forcing function to ensure that I had the time and space, and it actually made me happier, more joyful, and ultimately more productive and successful. Because in order to receive the next level of your business, you have to have some time and space to get the downloads, to get the business strategies, to align the messaging, to have. So part of what in our mentorship program, which we'll talk a little bit about, we have this beautiful place for retreating, and people tend to sleep like 9 hours a night because it's like they're going, and it's actually to receive the next possibility for yourself. You need more rest. And there was one of the people who's been through the Shift mentorship program, a 7-figure, very successful entrepreneur. I won't give her a name, but she had in her system a rest and sleep as a key part, and she just wasn't doing it. And I was like, you're totally out of integrity with your whole message there, and that's hurting you and it's hurting your business. It was the first thing I worked on with her. And so really getting that receptivity piece, that yin piece is essential. And you're designing your work week to work sustainably and to do so in a way that is really works with your natural rhythms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to actually jump ahead because that's a piece I wanted to
go for it.
Go out of order because I want to just give you a coaching assignment, if you're willing to get a coaching assignment from Lisa, your Shakti coach over here, to really look at your day in terms of what your ideal rhythm is. So, for example, that spaciousness that I spoke about earlier that makes me feel really wealthy. What that looks like for me is that although I'm an increasingly early riser, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, I don't, go public, see clients, or take business appointments until 10 o'clock. And so my morning time is this sacred time for me to do the things that I need to do to fill my own well so that I can be a wellspring for others. And so that often looks like a meditation practice. It looks often these days like a very early morning yoga class that I love to go to, even just time to make myself a really healthy meal, whatever that is for me, to do some journaling. So that's kind of sacred space for me in the arc of my day, for example. So really think about your own rhythm.
David likes to call it feed the feminine first.
There you go. I love that. Feed the feminine first, right?
Especially
so for
women.
That's really important, right? And then look at so that's like your day, like what's your daily rhythm look like? Look at your weekly rhythm. Like for me, my core busy days where I'm giving interviews and I'm teaching and I'm coaching, I've got my coaching practice, et cetera, tends to be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So for me, the arc of midweek is like I'm on, and I like to work longer hours those days. Mondays and Fridays Monday tends to be kind of like soft entry into the week. It tends to be a day where I do more planning, for example. I'm often working that day, but it's a way for me to like kind of set myself up for success for that week, or maybe do some more writing, for example. So think about what your weekly rhythm looks like. How many days a week are you going to be working and when are you really productive? And then also your month. Because for me, for example, with my coaching practice, I've always taken the last week of the month off from seeing clients because that's a chance for me to reset or for me to get my own coaching from my coaches and mentors and my masterminding, right? So that when I show up at the beginning of the month again, and I do 3 weeks of coaching with my clients, I'm like ready, I'm refreshed, I'm on, and I have a lot to give my clients. So think about that also in terms of this arc of your own yin and yang and what feels sustainable for you in your rhythm.
Mm-hmm. I think this also connects to the whole piece around leadership too, because as you grow your business, you are increasingly not just a solopreneur, you're a leader of a team, of an organization. And Chip Conley, who is a mentor to me, likes to say CEO ultimately means Chief Emotions Officer. So you're setting the emotional tone, the energetic tone. And when I was overworking as a CEO, that was having a lot of stressful impacts all downstream in the culture. When I started to have more contained work weeks, it actually helped improve the culture as well. So when we're doing these things for ourselves, it's not just for ourselves, it's ultimately in service to the business and mission and the clients or customers that we work with, because there's like a vibration that people can feel when something feels settled and whole and good and aligned and pleasurable that is ultimately more nourishing too.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you. How do you know when something in your business is yours to do or it should be outsourced to somebody?
Well, that's I think it's really key. Like you can just see like what gives you what excites you, what gives you juice, what's like fun to do, what's easy to do. I think a certain amount of stretching into the things that it's hard to do, or at least doing them once or some, so that you can kind of get that mastery. So you're not avoidant.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like my thing is not to do customer support, but when we first launched the original Sacred Awakening series, I was doing the customer support. I've actually done coding on websites. I've done all kinds of stuff in the business that. It was just like, I get enough of why it needs to happen. We just got this new property for leadership retreats and for our own use. And it's really a beautiful place. And it's like, we're now having to deal with the well issue. There's some well issues and other thing. And
now you're learning about water.
And I'm learning about water.
And
so when I step back from it, I see, well, the beauty of this is that I'm learning all about the infrastructure pieces of the house. So it's not like I'm just dependent on other people. It's ultimately not my job to fix the well, but like understanding what's going on helps me. So the same thing with a business. It's like you're kind of learning the ropes of each thing, which makes you a better manager, a better team leader when you understand what the unique challenges of each position are. Yeah. But as you recognize, it's like, does that bring you joy? Is that the best use of your talent? Are you generating enough value there? You got to keep moving up the value sphere. So you, as an entity grows, let's say you get to be when you're $1 million business, that means that if you have 200 hours or 2,000 hours in a year, roughly 200 hours in a month, as a kind of an average work week, and some people a lot less, then that means that your time, if you're doing, you should be generating at least $100 an hour with all of what you do. And so you have to kind of reformulate. Is like, if you can pay somebody $30 an hour to do customer support, that really isn't yours to do anymore. So you have to think, what is it that I'm generating the most value, bringing me the most joy, and how can I quickly outsource effectively and manage those pieces that are really not your highest joy, your highest service, or ultimately your highest value contribution.
And then you end up appreciating that person so much too. Like the very first person I hired years and years ago was a bookkeeper, because that is not so much in my wheelhouse, and I don't like it, and I avoid, I was just like, I know how to do it, but it's not my thing. And to find a young woman who loves to do that, loves to get all nitty gritty into my books and figure out all that stuff. And she wanted to work at home, and she had a brand new baby. And so I felt like, I could support her to like be a stay-home mom, because I can be one of her clients. And she's been with me for, oh my goodness, almost 15 years now. And, that was just, such a blessing. I remember reading in one of Eckhart Tolle's books, that if we're going to take action on anything, the minimum that we need to have is a feeling of acceptance about it, but ideally excitement or even enthusiasm. And so I use that all the time in my business. If, there's things I do in my business all the time, it's not really what I want to do, but it's like, okay, that needs to be done. But I can find a level of acceptance about it, especially because if I do that, then I get, some other result, something that I want. So use that as a way to check, and then do the things that are really in your zone of genius, the things that you're enthusiastic about and excited about, which are probably the things that are the very best things for you to be doing. And the things that you really don't like, or you're really not good at, like me, bookkeeping, oh my God, it would be a disaster. Then get people who have enthusiasm and excitement about that to do it for you.
Yeah, and when you say zone of genius, I also want to bring in Gay Hendricks has a great thing of like
awesome book.
Differentiate between your zone of excellence and your zone of genius. Yes. And a lot of people get stuck in their zone of excellence because you're good at it and maybe better than anybody else. And I went to Necker Island and with this whole business entrepreneurial group and got to chat a bit with Richard Branson and really ask him like, well, how do you have 500 companies and still spend time playing tennis and kiteboarding every day? He says, you got to get out of the building. And so his whole thing was, people always want to talk to the highest level decision maker they can. And if you're in the building, that means that you're in the loop. And so he's like, people won't do it as well as you for a while, but they eventually figure it out. And so he sort of makes something happen, then moves on to the next thing. And then that creates a space for more people to step in. Me going on paternity time for 3 months was actually great for the team because they started taking on functions that I had been holding, and I was very good at them, and they got a lot better while I was gone, which is really helpful. So sometimes this, nature abhors the vacuum. You got to kind of let your fingers go, and you're gonna have sometimes let it be less good for a while, and you try to be compassionately offering feedback about how to improve it. You don't want to kind of completely go unconscious in areas of business that could really take your things off the rails. You want to keep a finger, monitor a little bit, have some feedback loops, sometimes an approval, but you want to empower other people as quickly as possible. And then, now that we have, and so it's every stage of the business. Now we got a team of 75. I'm always looking at this. Oh, what do we need here? How do I get some other piece handled that I was handling before? And it keeps me lifting to the next level, because ultimately I'm the one at the end of the line holding the energy of the whole. And so I have to be able to kind of expand to the next level of like, what does it look like to have 150 employees, 1,000 employees, and different levels of scale, but it's the same principle.
Yeah.
Cool. What's anything else you want to say about how to make your business more pleasurable?
What I want to say about that is weave it in. Like, I think that we, again, I don't know if it's that Puritan ethic or just, the hyper masculine world that we're all living in that's bottom line driven and go, 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 go all the time. We can easily fall into this idea of like, I got to get it really successful first. I got to get all my hard work done. And then once that's all done, then I'll take a break, and then I'll, and that's important. It's important to have those periods of like hard focused work and then take your vacations. There's nothing wrong with that. But in general, I believe that for me, what works is that the more literally sensual I can make my work day, the more I can weave in what I find pleasurable, which is sensual, meaning I like to have beautiful things around me. I like to have fresh flowers on my desk. I like to have essential oils in my diffuser so that I'm smelling, my purification oils while I'm working away, right? But these ways that we literally engage our senses, to bring us into presence, first of all, and to make this soft animal body of ours, to use a beautiful line from a Mary Oliver quote, what does this soft animal body of yours love? Can you let it love what it loves? And so the more I can take care of myself that way, the more focused and creative and contributory I can be with the work that I do in the world. Now, having a business called Awakening Shakti, it also really triggers my need to be in integrity, right? And need to be authentic. So I've kind of got it built into my business so that I make sure that pleasure and sensuality is part of how I work and part of how I do what I do. And if you're somebody who tends to compartmentalize those, if you're somebody who's feeling really exhausted and really burned out, which a lot of us are, and you're in that go, go, go mode, I really want to encourage you to start small, even by like, what are you wearing when you go to work? Or what jewelry are you wearing if you're, somebody who enjoys that? Or just these ways that you can add pleasure into your work life instead of having it be so separate, right? And something out in the
that's where it becomes really deadening, where you create a split. And so much of it is the conditioning. There's something else we want to talk about a little bit, the societal conditioning, is that like our conditioning is to kind of have a certain pattern of like, this is what it means to do business, rather than, and that becomes really problematic for us to actually become successful. We're like, you know what, we can do business in the way we want. You can wear the clothes you want, you can do it in the environment you want, you can design the businesses you want. It doesn't have to fit the societal mode, because when you try to fit the societal, acceptable, this is what business looks like, wearing a suit and tie and going to an office, that's not always like, there are plenty of people who are super successful now
that aren't
doing that. And so we have the blessing and opportunity to kind of design our businesses in a way that's fully has integrity. And that helps us to become more successful, because we don't feel like we're having to be inauthentic to really make our business thrive. And so some other things that I think are important to think about that is like, what are the conditioning around either the mainstream culture around money or business strategy or success, that you might have like a distaste for, like something that you judge a little bit, like, oh, like there was a question earlier about like, what's this whole thing with millionaire mindsets? And like at one point I used to, there was Lisa Nichols was charging $1,000 an hour for her couch coaching. I was super judgmental around that. And at a certain point I was like, you know what, eventually I'm going to have to do that myself. And I've charged people to, I often charge now $2,000 an hour for coaching because I can really deliver huge value and help people have a breakthrough in that time. And it actually is appropriate valuation relative to the rest of what I'm doing for the business. And so I'm not personally taking all that home. It's feeding the business and feeding other people, but it's something that I had to get through. So look at it. Where are the places where we have judgment or aversion? And those may be things we need to open to and integrate. So on the spiritual side, there's conditioning around money a lot of times and success. Sometimes discipline can be a little bit like discipline, on the other side, feeding the masculine is having strong discipline sometimes and doing things that are like really focused and stretch us. And it's like, that is like the counterbalancing force to the kind of the deep feminine in many ways. And so we want to have those things that really help us to let go of the spiritual conditioning that tends to be a little success repellent, and the mainstream conditioning that tends to define success in much more conventional ways and often feel inauthentic for people who are on more of a conscious path. So as we let go of those, something much more natural emerges. It's something much more joyful, that it's like, oh, this is like a fun expression of my gifts. This is an extension of my soul mission. I'm not having to sell my soul to be successful. I'm actually unveiling my soul to magnetize more success. And the whole magnetizing success is another thing I know you have a lot to share on too. But I think we probably ought to go to your practice now. You want to lead a little practice for us?
Sure, I'd love to. I love talking about stuff like this. It's so exciting. I just want to say, like, what an amazing moment that we're in. I know that we look out on the planet right now. It's like, oh my God, the problems are so catastrophic and devastating and frightening. And yet there's so much possibility right now. Like, what an amazing thing that we can, have access to everybody in the world by virtue of the internet, and we can get our gifts out there, and we can create businesses that feel sustainable, whatever that means to you, right? And make a difference in that way. And there's just so much opportunity right now too, which is why we're so excited about empowering you, whatever level you're at in your business, to do it. We need you out there. We want you to join us in bringing what you have forward. So, the practice that I wanted to offer you is, I wanted to, you've actually, if you've been looking at the mini course that we gave you on visionary leadership, I spoke about this in one of the segments there, and I wanted to just go a little deeper with you on it, kind of bring a little bit more texture and a practice to you around that. And it's the model is called the Quaternity, and I originally read this in a book that I love by an author that I adore, Carla McLaren, in her book, The Language of Emotions. And yet it's actually quite an ancient model that has to do with the four directions and the four elements as related to our mind, our body, our heart, and our spirit. And so you can see here on the screen, we've got a little diagram for you. And it's, again, looking at this idea of our wholeness, right? Because so much of the time when we think about business, we're thinking only about what we're doing and what we're achieving, and it tends to be a little bit more mental. And so I want to really, Stephen and I both are committed to you having a business that feels really whole, that's nourishing not just you, but all of the people that you're touching. And so toward that wholeness, I want to just invite you into a little bit of an inquiry practice. So you can close your eyes if you feel to, and just take some deep breaths, just letting all this words and all this content just kind of relax. And I want to just guide you into your own quaternity with some inquiry questions. I'm just going to invite you to really listen to whatever arises, knowing that listening might be that you hear from your inner voice or your inner self something that sounds like language, or it might communicate to you in pictures or colors or textures or sensations. So just opening your senses now as you feel into the element of our quaternity that many of us feel most connected to, particularly engaged in a program like this, which is the element of the air. And so this is our mental quality, right? That form of intelligence that often comes through thinking. And so we've been feeding that element a lot today with lots of ideas, things that you can do in your business. And your mind very often will speak to you very loudly. And a lot of times when we get confused, it's because we're overly emphasizing this element of the air, right? And so the mind is swirling. It's almost like a little tornado or a hurricane up there, right? Of like excess air. And so we're just going to invite the mind to quiet and the element of the air to remember that it's never alone. It actually operates inside of a circle with a lot of other resources. And so as you're breathing and giving deep breath to your own element of air, hopefully you're starting to feel a little bit more relaxed. And I'm going to invite you to drop into your body. So feel the air moving in and out of your body. And this is your element of earth. And so feel the weight of you right now. And inside of this inquiry around being relaxed and successful in our business, what does your body have to say? What message might it have for you? If we just bring our attention to the body right now, the earth of you, what message does it have for you? In terms of how you're being in your life. Maybe your body feels really exhausted or tired. Maybe your body feels tense and it wants to just relax. Maybe it thinks it needs to be on overdrive doing. And so there's a quality of just simply being that your body is asking for. Just note what message it might have for you. And then thank it. Take a big breath. And then let's drop into the heart. Maybe your heart, and then typically when the mind quiets and the body feels more relaxed, then we start to be able to feel more what's happening in our heart. And this is the element of water. So this is the flow of the motion that is our emotion, our emotional life. And very often, if we're busy in the mind and the body is really tense, we don't really listen to the intelligence that lives in our heart. So here we're really attuning to the heart. What does the path of heart look like or feel like for you as an entrepreneur right now? If you just give a green light to what's happening in your heart right now, what message does it have for you? And take a big breath there. And then move to your fire element. This is our soul, our spirit. So for me, this lives a lot in the third chakra, the solar plexus, where my solar energy lives. But it might live for you in your sex center, or it might be feeling like it's burning really brightly in your intuition center, your third eye. But feel into this element of your fire or your passion. right? The fire burns up things that no longer serve you. We can throw things into the fire, old beliefs about that might be limiting around how we think we can be as an entrepreneur, what we think we can achieve. This might be the fire of your vision. This might be your passion, what you really care about. This can be your sexuality, your kundalini nature. That electric life force energy that brings us into our connection between heaven and earth. And so really check in with your own fire right now. And what message does it have for you? Is it burning bright? Does it feel dampened down? What does it want for you right now in your life and your work and your business? And then just taking a big breath there and letting yourself feel your wholeness here. And inside of this sacred space that we have in this moment, I want to just seed this idea for you that in order for you to be relaxed and incredibly successful in your life and in your business, that you may always go to these other elements that make up your wholeness, that you are not just that swirling mental energy, but that there is just as much intelligence living in your body and that soft animal that is you, the earth element of you, in your heart, in the water, and in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. Bring in the fire. I love it. I love it. Ending with fire too. It's just sort of, because ultimately relaxed and successful, we're bringing all of ourselves forward. It's like, it's all about bringing all of ourselves forward ultimately. Yeah. So we want to spend a little, some time talking about the Shift Mentorship Program. Let's see, maybe we'll take at least one more question before we do that so that we can make sure to address, okay, Lindsay says, I have a clear idea of the gifts I want to give the world, and I have a vision for where I want to be professionally, and I'm side hustling nonstop toward that goal, but I'm also a single mom, has to maintain a 9-to-5 to pay the bills. I sometimes find myself with frustration or in doubt, wondering how long this is supposed to take, or I'm supposed to be doing something different. So, Lindsay, this connects back to like figuring out what is it that the most value that you can bring in the shortest amount of time and packaging that up so you can start selling that and reducing your 9-to-5. So you're really doing what you're here to do. It's not about taking time away from your kids, but like starting to get more and more out of those hours that you have available to work. And that's part of what we're excited to do in the Shift Mentorship Program. It's to leverage each hour. So you're bringing the air and the water and the fire and the masculine and feminine together. So each hour of your work week is of maximum value to your mission. So leading into, let's talk more about the mentorship program. So we are excited. We've known each other and collaborated in different ways for like 17 years now, or maybe longer, 19 years. Yeah. And so we're really excited that this is the first time that we've offered this program together. I actually did this the last 2 cycles with my wife Dava, but we have a second little girl coming, so she needs a little more mama time.
I get to be Auntie Lisa.
Auntie Lisa. So it gives us a chance to work together, and we've actually worked on a retreat together that was really fun and juicy for folks. So we're excited to be bringing our complementary gifts. Where I tend to be strongest, I'm like the download guy. I can take anybody's vision and help you expand it to the next level, to see possibilities, business strategies, ideas, growth strategies, help you expand and hone the vision and the strategies for how to get there. I'm super fast at doing that. I've done it with like world-class leaders. I've done it with people just starting out. I'm doing it with people who have 6-figure businesses, 7-figure businesses. And so the reason I do this and the reason I feel like I'm wired by the universe to do this is I'm here to help empower the shift on the planet. So the Shift Network is part of that, but you are part of it as well. It's like each of you bringing your soul gift and business to the fullest expression, if you can touch 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people with your essence and gift, that just adds to this overall movement, because it's just one company can't change the world, but all of us collectively, the couple million people who've already participated in something, the Shift Network, all of you, when you're giving your soul gifts, then we can touch humanity. We can touch everybody. So I know that everybody's got different things. We had people who've come through the mentorship work who are like creating a hero's journey for kids in camps. We've had women who are leading full fierce goddess empowerment work, is like, the warrior goddess training. We've had people who are working on different things in health, transforming the healthcare industry and working on nutrition. And so there's a lot of different areas that need transformation in our society. And the Shift Mentorship Program is a way for us to give you personal, one-on-one and small group empowerment, so you can really have a breakthrough in 6 months. So you can see the page at shiftmentorship.com. Again, that's shiftmentorship.com, just as it sounds. And we're opening the new cycle as of today. So we're opening for application. It's a short window. It's just until July 29th. So we've got a few thousand people who have signed up for this particular training, and these are people who are really sort of like, okay, you guys
are ready.
You guys are ready.
You know who you are.
You know who you are.
You do.
And I'd say the program is best if you're already off the ground and you got something running, because then it's like you can get a really early return on investment. I remember there was one client who had already had a seven-figure business, and she had a $100,000 launch right off of one session with me. So she got a huge ROI right away. But even if you're a little bit earlier in the journey and it takes a little longer, if you know that you are here to play bigger, to offer more, to really have your business reach its full fruition, those are the people that we want to work with. That we want to work with you, so you can feel like you have given your best to this time. You've given your best, you've given your all, you've touched the people that you can touch, that your message is refined, that your leadership is refined, that you're standing in your power and authenticity and your soul gifts, that you're understanding how to grow and scale your business, that you're helping to understand how to launch, how to brand, how to do different things in a more sophisticated way. That's what we're really here to do. And so it's to transmit. It helps you do faster what it took me ultimately 19 years to do after I got my download. It took me 10 years of trying to get the Shift Network off the ground, and 9 years now we've launched 500 plus programs. And so there's a lot I know about what works, what doesn't, how to position yourself, what it takes to step in. We do work around speaking and standing in your voice and authority and your power, so you embody your message. And we do a lot of work also about making sure your lifestyle is pleasurable and integrated, so that it is the relaxed and successful, that we're modeling this, and so we can show up radiant and in our power for the long haul. So let's talk a little bit about the structure. Maybe share a little bit about what you're enthusiastic to bring into this.
What I want to say to you is that, first of all, we've only got room for 10, literally 10 people. We're gonna have 6 months together. That includes some extended embodied retreats, here in the beautiful Sierra foothills at Stephen and David's gorgeous home. So we're going to have time together, and then there's also going to be coaching one-on-one, and 2 retreats like that, and group calls. And so that's why there's only room for 10, right? Because it's going to be very intimate. And what I really want to encourage you to think about is, what would it look like for you to take this 6 months and have that kind of intimacy and focus on your business and what you're here to do, and to stop struggling about trying to figure that all out on your own? I only wish there was something like this that I could have plugged into, that also for me personally had this focus on both the masculine and the feminine, the successful and the relaxed, the strategic, and then also the, receptive, right? Because to me, that's really the gift of what we're offering, is this kind of wholeness for you, so that you don't have to struggle so much figuring it out all by yourself, that you're going to be literally, how this is when you put yourself inside of sort of like an incubator, if you will, where there's that much energy and you're working with other people who are also that focused on making a difference and taking their business to the next level, you're also drafting on all of that energy. It's just not possible to create that by yourself or even with one coach. So I love business. I love helping people be successful with their businesses. And I love to do that with the version that I have of that, of doing that in a relaxed and feminine, receptive and extremely pleasurable and sensual way. And I love that Stephen has, the experience, phenomenal experience that he has with the strategic around how to actually do this with the kind of resources that we have access to, online resources and, everything that we have right now. So yeah, I'm so excited about it.
Awesome.
So excited about it.
So it's really about making a commitment to a big leap in your business, in your work. And so you're making a commitment to up-level yourself and how you're taking care of yourself, how you're standing as a visionary, how you're speaking about your vision, how you're clarifying it, how you're magnetizing people. And it's about getting the right sequence of things in place, from the core branding to the communication to launch strategies to specific programs. Sometimes I've gotten down into helping refine intro call page copy and the sequencing of things. So we really get into the nitty gritty of whatever is most valuable.
It's not just theoretical. It's like
what platforms should we use? And it's like things that we took all this time to research. And it's like, oh, here's what you ought to do. And it just takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. So super excited. I can run through a little bit more of the actual benefits. You can see things laid out on the page at Shift Mentorship. So we structure this as giving you everything we got to empower your success. So there is the deep retreat times. We have an activation retreat that kicks things off. It's going to be September 4th to 7th. It's 4 days at this extraordinarily beautiful place that we feel blessed.
It's so beautiful.
And 30 acres of wilderness and beautiful ambiance. We get the best local organic cuisine that is just we have a private chef. It's amazing. And and it's also just a great time to open to bigger possibilities. So people come and it's you expand your sense of what you're creating and how you're creating it and how you can step in. It's just a place to expand. So that's the activation retreat. We're going to do a lot of experiential stuff. We do different exercises, stepping in, speaking. There's expansion, there's guided journeys, and there's also some deep time for rest and relaxation and a lot of fun.
I promise you it's going to be pleasurable and delicious and relaxed. I promise you.
Great. And so then towards the end of the program, we have a second retreat, and that is called the Momentum Retreat. So it's about building on what already has happened and how do you take it further and grow still further, refine further, also continue success. So it's a little bit setting you up for the success longer term coming out of the program. It's not quite exactly the end, but it's near the end. And so that's also January. So it's going to be January 29th to February 1st, which is a more inward time in certain ways, but it's also a time that's starting a new year where you're kind of expanding new possibilities after the whole holiday season.
Well, right, but think cozy by the fire.
Yeah, fire time. Yeah, might even be some snow.
Could be snow, winter in the Sierras. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, so it's going to be great. And so, we'll include some hiking, swimming. There's also cool things in town. So we make it fun as well. In between, you're going to have a couple of things that are super valuable that are kind of on a regular basis. One is every week there's group mastermind calls. It means you have a place every week for an hour where you can ask us your questions. It's going to be alternating, and I'm going to take a chunk of time for being in paternity mode, and so I'll have more towards the beginning and the end, but we're going to have an equal amount of the weekly group time. It's more for laser coaching, specific teachings. We're responsive to what your questions are. If you want to we're on email list building strategy, we can do a download on that. We can tell you what's gone on with the Shift Network and all kinds of things that we've learned. So that's the kind of weekly group time. We're going to have one-on-one sessions, 3 with each of us. Super valuable. I said I charge $2,000 a pop for those, and so it's a great value. You get 3 spaced out, and also Lisa's time, super valuable. So you kind of alternate, get that masculine, feminine.
Yeah, so you get to work one-on-one with me and one-on-one with Stephen.
Yeah, so you get that in addition to the retreat time. We also make, we encourage you to create accountability partners. So you're working with somebody else in the program for other weekly check-ins and accountability. And we're also available to answer a lot of email questions too. So besides that, we have added this interesting thing because we had some requests for like, oh, I'd like to know more about online advertising, or so we added a specialized help from people on our team. So up to 2 1-hour sessions with other team members from Shift that might have more specialized knowledge for you. You get
hugely valuable
MP3 audios. We actually have a former VP, a former senior vice president from Disney who works for Shift. We've
Amazing
got like
team.
Top people. So you get the MP3 audios, PDF transcripts of everything. And
you guys know the Shift takes such exquisitely good care of you. I mean, so much value, tons of bonuses. You want access to content, they're going to give it to you.
Great. And so we get also threw in all these bonuses that are some of our premier offerings from the past. We had a Shift leadership program that had totally like top tier, some of the best leaders in the world, some of the people we respect most. That's actually it was a $5,000 program. We did an Enlightened Business Academy, 9 months worth of content in specific areas that really about growing your business. That was a $2,500 program. And then we're saying we're throwing in $3,000 worth of 5 other Shift programs of your choice. So you can basically anything else that feels important, whether you're getting Tim Kelly's work on purpose or you're doing shamanic journeying, it's whatever feeds your soul and helps you go to the next level, that gets bundled in as well. So this is by application. So it doesn't, just because you apply doesn't mean that you get in the program, but we encourage you to apply. There are no requirements. We recommended that you have serious commitment and ideally some good, strong momentum. I think it's best for 6-figure businesses or better that want to grow substantially. But we do sometimes work with people who are at an earlier stage, and it's just a matter of you committing to. It's going to be sometimes a little bit a longer process to get to where you're getting the return on the investment. But over the long haul, it's a great investment to make in the growth of your business and fulfillment of your mission. So you basically apply within the next next 10 days or so. And simple application, you can find it at shiftmentorship.com. We do have a monthly payment plan that costs a bit more, but it spreads it out. It is committed. So it's like once you're in, you've got a couple days you can decide to drop. But because we only have 10, we can't have people dropping off in the middle. It ruins the container. And so it's like once you're in, and there's a commitment to do that. You just have to put a $100 deposit down to make the application, which is refundable if you're not accepted. So I encourage you to, if you feel at all called, go for it. We will also do some conversations with people that feel like they have some questions about the program so we can address. And then you'll be notified by August 4th to start in the September cycle, which will run through the January retreat, and then there'll be still some follow-on group coaching and individual sessions. So I encourage you to go to the page. Probably, what people have told me that is oftentimes the most powerful part for them is just to read some of the testimonials. We have some testimonials from people who have done previous cycles, and there's a few more coming since we just finished a Shift mentorship program literally this week. So we finished the cycle, so we have a few more really beautiful testimonials that haven't gotten up on the page yet. But there's also testimonials from people like Jack Canfield or Marsha Weeder that I've coached and worked with, and then people worked with Lisa in different capacities who really can offer a lot of heartfelt acknowledgement of the benefit that they've gotten in their life from our work. So I feel really good about the value we can bring to you. I think we balance each other in a really great way. I sometimes be a little intense of like downloads and possibilities, and then Lisa, let's breathe into that. Let's relax and savor that. So in terms of the yin and the yang, she's got a deeper integration of the yin, although we're both pretty balanced, but it's
I'd say you've got a pretty good taste here.
Yeah.
So if this feels intriguing, curious,
if it fits your groove,
this is pretty much us, right? And if you want to dance with us this way, if you want to take your business to the next level, if you know that this 6 months is like, this is an opportunity, even if you're not sure how you're going to do it, I get that. We'll help you with that. We'll get your questions answered, but stay with your vision of that. If this is firing your passion, right, and touching your heart and making your body tingle, and your mind is like, yes, no, just go back to your quaternity, go back to like what's true, and trust. I can't tell you how many times I've leaped, right? And that is very oftentimes how we figure out how to fly. So we're here to show you your wings and support you and give you everything that we have to help you have the business of your dreams and take your business to the next level, right? Wherever you're at, wherever you're at in this strata. Don't be too scared about those 8-figure, 7-figure, I know that can feel a little bit intimidating. If you feel like this is for you, even if you can't quite see how you're going to get there or you don't necessarily identify with that, just go ahead and apply and we'll let you know if we feel like that's one of the reasons we're not saying everybody's in, because we've only got 10 spots for 10. We're not going to put you in if we don't feel like you're ready and you're ripe and you're, ready to go.
Good. So I should mention that the total value of things that we've actually charged for, which are getting bundled together, is $33,000. But we're doing the program for about half of that for $17,000, and you can spread it out with a little bit more with a payment plan. So it's we really bring all of our best forward for this, and we want to make you successful and go to the next level. And this is we know there's a lot of people out there who are at the level we are, who are doing $15,000 just for one day long, and it's like we're providing a lot of different aspects of value. So we feel this is really the optimum mix of small group retreat and coaching, and there's no extra expenses for the retreat or the food.
Yeah,
it's like all bundled, all included. So it's actually a lot of value. You just get yourself
here to our beautiful little Nevada City spot in Northern California, and you don't have to do another thing except for show up and be brilliant and come participate.
Cool. All right. Well, it's been a great 2 hours. Sorry we didn't get to more questions, but we had a lot we wanted to share, and really hope you got a lot of value. Love and appreciate you for just showing up and for also feeling the call to be of larger service to really help heal and transform our world. It takes all of us to really make the shift a reality on the planet, to make this planet a bridge between heaven and earth and a reflection of our sacred depths and the love that we're all here to share. So thank you for sharing your love and your genius in all the ways that you do.
Yeah. Thank you. Come play with us.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.